Anonymous Watch Guy here with a full review video. Quick wrist check. Wearing the Bulova Jetstar 1973 limited edition awesome watch. Today I have another limited edition watch that I unboxed probably a month or so ago now. Finally getting around to the full review on this one. Of course, we are talking about the Seiko 5 Sports, the 55th anniversary limited edition. This is pretty much an exact recreation of the original Seiko 5 sports watch from 1968. Of course, this is reference SRPK17. This is limited to 15,555 pieces. You can debate whether or not that's actually limited. But I think this is a great watch. A lot to really like about this watch. I think Seiko did a really nice job with this one. Maybe the release of the summer from Seiko anyway. Let's take a look at the dimensions again. This is a 39.5 millimeter watch. So essentially a 40 millimeter watch. You do have a 20 millimeter lug opening, kind of a partially hooded or shrouded lugs. It is 43.1 millimeters lug tip to lug tip. So you've got some very retro dimensions there. It's going to be very wearable on a lot of wrist sizes. It is a push-pull crown there at the 4 o'clock position. It is recessed into the case there. You can barely see it sticking out there. It is a little bit hard to use, but overall it's not really too bad. It does still give you 100 meters water resistance. We do have a curved hard Let's crystal. That's right, it is. It is a hard Let's crystal. As much as we want Seiko to give us a sapphire crystal at this price point, it just isn't going to happen. And honestly, probably for a recreation of a 1968 watch, hard Lex might be a little bit more appropriate, or even a plexiglass crystal. May have been appropriate as well, but it's a nice looking crystal. Definitely gives some distortion to the dial. Kind of goes well with the vintage vibe of the watch. It is, of course, running the 4R36 movement. You've got a day-date complication, 24 joules, 41 hours power reserve, hacking, hand winding, all that good stuff. Solid movement, nothing to worry about as far as that goes. But a really good looking watch. Definitely like the overall vintage aesthetic. If you look at some pictures of the original 1968 Seiko 5 Sports, this one matches up with it pretty darn well. It is almost an exact one-for-one recreation. But I definitely like that matte black dial. You've got a white railroad track around the outside there. With your minute track, you do have your Seiko 5 logo printed right there beneath the 12 o'clock position. And then your sports down there beneath the 6, or above the 6, automatic 24 joules, 100 bars, made in Japan on the dial. Your day-date complication outlined in silver over there in the 3 o'clock position. Just kind of a high-polished stick handset. And then you've got your red seconds hand with a lollipop out there on the end. This watch does feature LumiBright, and it does have solid lume that you would expect on a Seiko. As we know, LumiBright is pretty darn good. No complaints there. This is a very also vintage bi-directional friction bezel. No clicks, just a friction bezel. It does have a nice amount of resistance. It's not something that you're just going to bump and move the bezel. Again, it's not a dive watch. You're not going to be timing a dive with this or anything where if you bump it, it's going to cause you to run out of air or anything crazy like that. But it is a bi-directional friction bezel. And it feels pretty good. I'm cool with the bezel action on it. I think it also, being that it's a friction bi-directional, you can make sure that it lines up. Seiko has issues with bezels lining up, but it definitely looks good. I don't know what the insert is on this bezel, where if it's aluminum, it has kind of an aluminum look to it. Definitely has a vintage vibe. Again, the whole watch really plays into that retro 1960s Seiko vibe. I think they did a really good job with that. You've got some very nice brushing on the top of the lugs here on the top of the case. You've got a high polished finish on the side of the case. It does curve down. You do get drilled lugs for easy strap changes. The head of the watch is absolutely great. I don't have any complaints about the watch itself. I don't know that I can't talk. I don't know that I am in love with the bracelet. The bracelet, again, it is a very vintage style bracelet. If you've seen these kind of bracelets on older watches, they tend to be really flimsy. Seiko did a really good job of making this bracelet much more robust feeling, but it almost feels too stiff. It almost feels like you can bend it to where it wouldn't fit properly, if that makes sense. It does articulate somewhat, but it is fairly rigid. It is all kind of a brushed finish. I definitely think it looks cool. I love the look of the bracelet. I just don't know that I love the feel of the bracelet, if that makes sense. It is sized with split pins or push pins. You can see your arrows there pointing which direction to push the pins. But it definitely goes with the retro aesthetic of the watch. It's true to 1960s style. They've definitely improved it over what a 60s bracelet would be. But I don't know that I love it. You do have a twin trigger deployant. It is signed Seiko. It is just a pressed clasp. Feels a little cheapy. Standard Seiko pressed clasp. This is a $415 watch at full retail price. So you get what you pay for there. That's about what you'd expect at this price point from Seiko. Then on the back, it is a numbered limited edition. It does say limited edition there on the back. And this is number 2105 of 15,555. I wonder, since I've got a number 5 in the serial or in my number, if that makes it more collectible, if the one that you have has a 5 in it. Maybe somebody, if they know, leave it in the comments. That would be pretty cool. It's just a screw down case back. Nothing too fancy there. But again, it plays along with the retro vibe of the watch. So a very cool watch. Definitely love the looks of the watch. I think Seiko did a great job in keeping this as an almost one-for-one copy of the original Seiko 5 sports watch. I think it looks great. Love the dial. Love the blue for the sports. Love the red seconds hand. I just think it is an absolute home run for Seiko. I think it's been very popular. It probably will eventually sell out at some point. It was a little bit hard to get, but you can now get them. Quite a few places seem to have them in stock now. But let's take a look at the lume on the watch, and then we'll see what it looks like on my 7.5-inch wrist. Here you can see the lume on the watch. You've got some really nice Luma Bright on there. That pip up there at the top of the bezel glows really brightly. Solid lume on all your indices. The handset glows nicely as well. You can see the lollipop on the seconds hand going around there. Seiko typically doesn't disappoint on the lume, and the Luma Bright comes through on this one. There's the watch on my 7.5-inch wrist. Wears very nicely. Again, the bracelet, it's comfortable, but it's just a little bit, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's a little bit different and not what I'm used to. That it kind of weirds me out a little bit. But I think it looks good on the wrist. You got some nice dimensions there at 40 by 43 basically. Plenty of space for a lot of wrists. If you've got a smaller wrist, you'll be able to pull this one off with no problems. Just a really cool watch and a great release from Seiko. The Seiko 5 Sports 55th Anniversary Limited Edition. If you liked the video, give me a like, maybe subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.